What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Big Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is currently still Saturday, January 15th, a day that will live on in infamy for Bengals fans, whatever that was. Oh, that was us probably going live on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast, it is very likely Sunday, January 16th.
Cincinnati Bengals, that's the team we're gonna cheer to victory. Touchdown Bengals, get some points up on that board and win a game for Cincinnati. Okay, I won't make you suffer through it anymore.
All right, so we're going to dive into the Bills-Patriots game. Joining me to break down the first evening of Super Wild Card Weekend, Saturday's action, of course. Saturday night, of course, was took place on CBS. We'll get to that, but naturally, we have to start with the Cincinnati Bengals. By the way, if we get to 200 likes, I'm told we'll give away Brinson Sucks hat. Maybe we'll even find a way for like Breech to do something like autograph it. I don't know, whatever the hell we'll do. Hey, look. All right. Anyway, Wilson, what's up, buddy? How you doing? Breech already sang the intro.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm happy for John Breech. You and I both were quite ecstatic for John Breech. And let's be honest, I'm a curmudgeon, and you are forever
spiteful and
with an ulterior motive,
rude and mean and all that stuff. Yeah.
All I would say though is that, and I think this actually transcends just the fight song you just sang, Breech. It feels like every fight song stinks, and maybe you should take it upon yourself if the Bengals win the Super Bowl to rewrite the fight song. But I do enjoy hearing you sing it.
No, that's crazy talk. The Bengals fight song, if they played it on pop radio, it would be the `
Pop
hit
radio.
every single year. It is an
He just said
amazing
pop radio.
An amazing song that does not need to be changed whatsoever.
Pop radio.
I text my friends after this win, and I was like, what happens next? Do the Bengals get a trophy? Do they play another game? It's been so long. I don't know. I'm good with one win. I'm good.
The last time the Bengals streak started when you're on your 9th birthday, when they lost to the Raiders.
In a game, by the way, Bo Jackson's last game, because the Bengals stunk so bad to kill Bo Jackson too.
Jeez Louise.
It was Bo Jackson's last game. He injured his hip on a tackle by Kevin Walker, and that was kind of, the Bengals fans saw this as the curse of Bo Jackson, and for it to all come full circle. And like you said, Brinson, that was my 9th birthday. I just celebrated my 40th birthday. I didn't see any wins in the 20s or when I was in my 30s or in my teens. And it took this long, and it finally happened. 31 years of waiting. If I knew it was going to be this great, I would have gladly waited 31 more years.
It wasn't easy. Although the Bengals looked pretty sharp. They won 26-19 against the Las Vegas Raiders. Joe Burrow was spectacular. The one flaw of the Bengals was probably their lack of execution in the red zone.
Can I, before you go on, can I put Breech on the spot here with a very serious question? All right, Breech, rank them. Birth of your daughter, your marriage, this Bengals victory.
Oh, well, you know what? My wife and daughter were both here to experience it with me, so they're all tied for 1. And you know what? I can't put the Bengals on top, because what if they win the divisional round? That one will be even bigger, because then it gets into the AFC title game. But this was definitely sweet. It was pretty crazy when it happened. So it was awesome.
Well, and the other thing too is you can't, say on a live recorded podcast episode that is streaming on the internet that you preferred a Bengals wildcard Super Wild.
I don't think anyone would hold it against them.
Victory over the birth of your daughter and the marriage to your wife. I mean,
I will say the Bengals have never lost a playoff game in my daughter's life, so
that's kind of cool.
She has that hanging on her hat.
I told you these 40s would be different. All right, so do you want to dive into the game? Do you want to sort of talk about your feelings here?
Yeah, let Breech have his 5 minutes of
your thing.
Maybe he'll cry. I want to see what happens here.
Well, you know what's funny is that I was.
By the way, Breech, happy birthday, buddy! Cheers to your Bengals.
Cheers to the Bengals.
There.
I was in Cincinnati during the week right before my birthday, and got to hang out with my family and got to spend a lot of time with my dad. And it was interesting talking about what the past 30 years have been like, because as has been pointed out, he was the last person to score in a Bengals playoff win before Saturday night. He's 65, so it had been that long, and it was about time for something to change. And so it's just cool having a text thread with him and the rest of my family. But you know what? Like one of you just said, the Bengals definitely did not make this easy. This was I think I was going to have an anxiety attack in the fourth quarter. I didn't even know I was going to make it to this podcast because I thought for sure they were going to blow it. You know, any other fan base that has dealt with horrible losses, I'm sure Vikings fans, Bills fans losing 4 Super Bowls, there's just this dark cloud that always hangs over your head, and you're always expecting the worst to happen. So when the Bengals are leading 23-13 in the fourth quarter, or 26-16, they're up 10. They're up 2 scores with 6 minutes left. You don't think most people probably thinking there's no way the Bengals could blow this. But if you were a Bengals fan, you're like, oh my God, they're going to blow this. Somehow this is going to be flipped upside down and they're going to lose. And so, you know, when the Raiders were making that final drive at the end of the game, I after Derek Carr got sacked and made, I think, 3rd and 17, I was like, oh my God, they're going to win. And then, you know, shouldn't have had that thought, because the next play he nails, I think, Darren Waller with a great throw, that I didn't even know Derek Carr was capable of in cold weather. And then it was like, oh my God, now they're going to lose again. What am I doing here? And then obviously Carr ended up getting intercepted on that final play.
Who sacked him and who intercepted him?
Jermaine Pratt.
Yeah, intercepted him. Who sacked him? I can't remember. It was BJ Hill, baby. How about that, Wolfpack? Jermaine Pratt and BJ Hill making plays to save the day for you on the final drive, Breech.
Way to make it about
NC State
you.
Represent.
Hey, man, I told my friends, I was like, if the Bengals win today, we're getting an ACC title sometime in the next 5 years. Like these droughts are snapping, man. Like it makes you believe that you can actually succeed at something. Your team can actually succeed after years of futility.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that was, I mean, the fact that it went down to the wire and you weren't sure it was going to happen until an interception with 12 seconds left made it that much sweeter, even though I almost had a heart attack at about 4 different points in this game.
Here's the thing, Breech. Even if Derek Carr had somehow thrown a touchdown at the end, it only would have been a tie. In years past, it would have been.
It might have gone for 2.
No, they were going to.
No. Knowing the Bengals, the Raiders would have gone for 1. The Bengals would have blocked it, and then the Raiders kicker would have picked it up and run it in for 2. That would have been the perfect
I
way.
was sort of thinking they would go for 2 because you have Rich Bisaccia, this interim coach, a defense that hadn't really been able to slow down the Bengals much. I mean,
right.
The Bengals picked up. They were just really the only struggles. They were 2 of 5 in the red zone. That was the only real problem for them offensively. I mean, Joe Burrow played an incredible game. He was moving the ball easily, fantastic pocket movement. There's some controversies we'll get to, but it did feel like
I said in the first quarter that this is a layup. This is going to be a victory. And then I just told Breech right before you joined us, fashionably late as always, Brinson, that this game, I at no point was ever concerned about the Bengals. So clearly it was close. The last drive it came down to.
Yeah, I was concerned about that. I guess I was more worried about the spread than the straight up.
But that was the Raiders' whole season was you
right,
like when they beat the Colts or they beat the Chargers, they just stick around, they just hang around.
Absolutely.
And then they find a way to win. After the game, the losing team's like, how the hell did we just lose to the Raiders?
Yeah. And I thought, full credit, like Rich Bisaccia deserves the job. He probably won't get it just because he's not a shiny new object. I thought that Derek Carr played much better than we all expected, so credit to him. But Joe Burrow was the best player on the field. Jamar Chase was probably the second best player on the field. The defense was dominating. Let me ask a Breech before we get too far ahead here. How concerned are you about these injuries? Mike Daniels, Ogunjobi, Hendrickson, Mike Hilton left for a second. Joe Mixon
was a concussion, so you would think he'd be able to clear protocol.
Who knows? I mean, the funny thing about the NFL concussions are you can play in 3 days. Every other sport, you're out for a month. So
there's like
that's sort of weird.
Well, I would say that I am super concerned because if Larry Ogunjobi's out, if Trey Hendrickson is out, Mike Daniels is dealing with a groin injury. He was another defense. It's
the worst possible cluster injury to have if you're going.
And Joe Mixon was hobbling too.
I mean, that's obviously not ideal, but obviously you have Joe Burrow back there. And, if you have to sling it 50 times because Joe Mixon's injured, then you do it. But I think for what would potentially be the next round, you can't be down 3 defensive linemen if you're going up against Derrick Henry. So that is definitely concerning.
But again, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Just something I was thinking about it.
So, the defensive linemen.
I mean, the Raiders average 7.4 yards per rush. Like that is and it and they were in a comeback mode a lot of the second half. So you didn't see them, it was sort of weird because they were throwing a lot. It felt like they should have kept running, but it's hard to do that in the moment. Josh Jacobs, the over on carries did not hit, but he looked sharp. I would 13 carries, 83 yards. I mean, in a perfect world, I think the Raiders defense plays a little bit better and they're able to, kind of use Josh Jacobs more the way that they wanted to. And I
don't know what the Raiders could have done better defensively. Like it wasn't like that's how the Raiders have played all year.
Yeah, I just mean that Burrow played clinical. The Bengals could have been up 28. Probably should have been up 21-0, and
that's
could
the
have
other
been
thing.
Up 28-0.
And that actually points to the Raiders defense actually doing better than expected. They were able to hold those two, I think the second and third drive or whatever it was.
They had one of the worst red zone defenses in the NFL going into it.
The worst.
And when they're holding the Bengals the field, it's like, oh my God, well, maybe this is the Raiders' day, because when your defense comes up in the clutch when it usually doesn't.
Please. Breech, you're no longer a loser. You're like the Red Sox fans when they finally won. Stop acting like the loser. Embrace being a winner.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Red Sox won World Series.
So Joe Burrow now moves. I'm going to do the quick napkin math here. In win or go, not I'm going to call them win or go homes, must win games. He now moves. I don't even know if we talked about this last week. The actual stats are mind-bending. He is now 7-0 with, I believe, 3,200 passing yards, 31 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Those games include this matchup against Oakland. I mean, Las Vegas. God, still doing it. This matchup against Las Vegas.
Ding.
The final 2 weeks of the regular season. And, that was, their playoff hopes were, up in the air, and they were trying to win the division, right?
His final 2 weeks.
His final 2 weeks. Sorry, yes, week 16 and week 17. And then it includes the 2 playoff games from his his only year at LSU, a game against Georgia in the SEC championship game, and then a game against Alabama in the regular season, where if you don't beat Bama, you're not going to the title game, and therefore you're eliminated from the college football playoff. In those games, 7-0, 3,000 passing yards. It's like he averages something like 415 passing yards per game, 31 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. This dude is an ice cold, or stone cold killer with ice in his veins.
That's a lot of freezing.
And then, people were talking about that going into this game. And then the first half, the Bengals didn't punt a single time. And the Raiders could not stop them. Except, they held them to field goals instead of touchdowns a few times. But the Bengals offense was basically moving the ball at will in the first half.
It did feel going into halftime that the Raiders were down 20-13 because they got that really quick touchdown pass to Zay Jones with, they scored in a minute, 38 seconds, ran 11 plays.
Well, if we want to talk about right before halftime, right before that Raiders touchdown, the other touchdown.
Let's get to that.
Let's just go into it.
Yeah, I have on my notepad, and my notes are short today because I stopped writing about halfway through the Bills and Pat's game. But I have a gigantic boger, section written out. The whistle, it's what the game will be remembered for, which is kind of a shame because
it will not be. But go ahead.
Okay. The game will be remembered for the Bengals breaking the streak. But when people talk about the Bengals breaking the streak, they will say that was the Jerome Boger whistle game.
I won't, but go ahead.
Raiders fans will.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, before you go on, you can go first, but here's the thing. And I know it's your world and it's not my world. And I have come to grips with that through therapy. If you're not on social media, it's just another mistake by a bunch of dumb refs.
That's not accurate.
What do you mean it's not accurate?
I'm texting with my friends about it. It's all we were talking about. Like the group, that's all the group chat, like multiple group chats. That's all anyone's talking about.
I didn't think it was that big. It was a terrible call, but at the end of the day, it didn't.
You didn't think it was that big of a deal?
In terms of the outcome, no. But go ahead. You go ahead, and I'll circle back.
Okay, so Joe Burrow is rolling to his right, and it looks like he's thinking about throwing the ball away. And as he takes his final step,
and this is on the 3rd and 4 from the Raiders 10-yard line.
Yep, with 2. This is it happened right at the 2-minute warning, actually.
First play after the 2-minute warning.
Right. So so first play after the 2-minute warning, and Burrow takes one final step, and he's that you're waiting to see if somebody can come open, and he sees Tyler. It was Tyler Boyd, right? Yeah, sees Tyler Boyd, throws it 10 yards. And as the ball is traveling in the air, at some point, like hearing it live, it was hard to really discern. You had to go back and watch it. And I Breech did this, but there's a whistle, and it's not a fan whistle. Maybe there was a fan whistle happening at the same time. This was a referee's whistle that is blown, and
official whistle.
An official whistle.
It wasn't Booger.
It wasn't Booger. Yeah. And so everybody's completely confused. And Boger comes on and says, and they initially, I felt like, were blowing the play dead as it was happening. He then comes out and says the ruling on the field is because Joe Burrow looked like he was close to the sidelines initially. They go back and you show the replay, and he's like, he's like a good distance from there's no way you could think he stepped out unless you're 100 miles away. And
what about 18 inches away? Should you be able to see it from there?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, it was close. It was close.
On the broadcast, you weren't sure right away if he had stepped out. You assumed since the whistle had been blown that he'd stepped out, but they did the replay. It's like there's no chance he stepped out. Boyd catches the touchdown. As you can see, Moerig there looks like he's sort of the Raiders looked like they had stopped giving up on the play because they had heard the whistle. Some of them did.
Wrong. Go ahead.
Okay. And they come out and they say, all right, the ruling on the field is a touchdown. And then it was like weird how they Breech. What were your emotions as this is happening? And how did you see it playing out? I guess is my question.
So yeah, I mean,
I don't care what Wilson thinks.
I didn't tweet about it because I knew if I sided with the Bengals that I'm going to come across like this huge Bengals homer. But I think I essentially agree with Wilson's about to say as far as the Raiders stopping, because watching the play, it looked like the whistle blew maybe 0.2 seconds before Tyler Boyd caught it. So it wasn't enough time for any Raiders player to react and like stop doing what they were doing. So I don't think it impacted anything about the play. Now, by the letter of the law, it is supposed to be a dead ball if the whistle blows. And by the letter of the law, it should have been a replay of the down. So like, I totally get why anyone would be upset, especially if you're a Raiders fan. But I do not think it impacted the actual play because it was so close to when Boyd caught it. It wasn't like any Raiders, you had 0.2 seconds to react from the whistle to the ball being in his hand. The ball's flying at 50 miles an hour and the whistle blows 0.2 seconds before it's in his hand. So in that sense, it's weird because for there not to be a way for the NFL to, because if you take a touchdown away, you penalize the Bengals for running a play that the Raiders couldn't stop.
To be clear, like even though by the letter of the law and the NFL rule book, the whistle sounding before the play was complete, it should have been replayed as a third and four, I guess.
Erroneous whistle is the rule.
An erroneous whistle, correct. By the letter of the law, it should have been replayed. So I understand why Raiders fans are upset. Had they decided to replay the down, the Bengals would have been extremely hosed, like way more hosed than the Raiders got hosed in this particular instance.
I would say that Raiders fans don't have a reason to be upset because the reality is, and this is what I said on HQ, if you're watching the game on mute, you go, oh my God, great play by Joe Burrow, great catch by Tyler Boyd, Trevon Moerig got smoked in coverage. Let's go on to the extra point. So just because some numbnut blew the whistle because he's a moron, I don't know who the guy is, and maybe he's a great grandfather and all those stuff. Why should that penalize the Bengals, and why should that give? And it is an advantage to the Raiders. And I say this as a Steelers homer. I'm watching it going, there's absolutely no reason. I would imagine that, NFL referee HQ said, listen, you guys really royally screwed that one up. Just pretend like it didn't happen. And after the game, Walt Anderson, who I think is now the head of officials, said, oh, no, the whistle came after the catch, which clearly didn't happen.
Well, that's what the ref said, the pool report. And then Walt Anderson just stood by the official, what they said in the pool report.
But also the reason they stopped, let me just quickly 10 seconds. The reason they stopped Tyler Boyd, Trevon Moerig, because they did hear a whistle, but as Breech noted, it happened right before Tyler Boyd caught the ball, and you're wondering why would some numbnut blow a whistle right here at this point in the game? So I have no problem with it.
I should have pointed out too, like when I said that the Raiders players slowed up, I didn't think it was that egregious how much they slowed up. I just saw the replay on NFL Network too, and it looks like Moerig he slowed up because he realized Tyler Boyd was catching a touchdown. Like, he was like, oh, I got beat.
Exactly. That's right.
So you can see it if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're watching, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, rate, and review. If we get to 200 likes, we will give away a Brinson Sucks hat. Paul Dehner Jr., friend of the podcast, was interviewing. This is interesting too. This has changed. I don't know if this is a COVID change or if this is a NFL decision to avoid awkward problems change.
What are
But
you talking about?
now, well, you used to the pool reporter. So they pick one of the PFWA reporters at the game, gets a one-on-one with the referees, and then distributes the quotes to everybody. So it's not like an exclusive or anything like that.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
They don't want the referee to interview with everybody. It used to be that you would talk to the head official. So like Paul Dehner Jr. would have talked to Jerome Boger. Instead, they put him on either a Zoom or a call, whatever, with Walt Anderson, who's the VP of officiating in New York. And he asked him about it. He says, can you talk through the conversations that were had on the inadvertent whistle in Cincinnati's touchdown in the second quarter? Anderson says, we confirmed with the referee and the crew on that play. They got together and talked. They determined that they had a whistle, but that the whistle for them on the field was blown after the receiver caught the ball. Okay, that's a lie and not accurate. So Dehner follows up and said, so they didn't think that the whistle was blown while the ball was in the air. Anderson says, that's correct. They did not feel that the whistle was blown before the receiver caught the ball. All right, doubling down. Dehner, where did the inadvertent whistle come from? Is one of the officials? Do you know the back judge? No. Anderson says the ruling on the field was a touchdown, but we still have to confirm any reviewable aspect of the play. So we confirmed it, blah, 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 blah. And then finally, Dehner asked, and that whistle was blown after the receiver had already caught the ball. And he says, what is specific in Rule 15 is that an erroneous whistle is not a reviewable play. And this is the key part, because Rule 15, Section 4, non-reviewable plays, A, whether an erroneous whistle sounded, which is an incredible loophole for the officials, because once they make their decision on the field and go with that ruling, whether they say no touchdown, whether they say he stepped out of bounds and we blew the play dead, or whether you say it's a touchdown, you can't review it either way. So I think what happened is Walt Anderson and the NFL officiating office got in Boger's ear and were like, yo, he was not close to out of bounds. You have to rule that a touchdown immediately. And
Right call. That's the right thing to do.
it is, but we now have sort of the eye in the sky Wizard of Oz situation unfolding with these officials.
They get it right. I don't care. They have stupid rules on the books, and they said in this instance, this is the right call. Once again, if you're watching this game on mute, there's no question. And the whistle, even though it was blown a split second before Tyler Boyd caught the ball because that moron blew the whistle, who cares? Like I guarantee the Raiders players would say, yeah, they're scoring that touchdown anyway. I get it. It's illegal. It's an erroneous whistle. I feel like Chris Farley doing Van Down by the River. But the end of the day, it's a touchdown.
And look, I understand why Raiders fans are upset because, you feel like you got hosed over, the whistle should have.
They shouldn't be upset about this.
I understand why they are. They are. I understand it.
I
If it happened to your team in a playoff game, you're going to be upset. But I think the flip side is this isn't like overruling an interception. If they had overturned it, the Bengals would have run another play from the Raiders 10-yard line, 3rd and 4. And you know what? At that point, you have no idea what's going to happen. What if they run the ball? Then the Raiders have to use a timeout. The Bengals kick a field goal, or the Bengals offense, as we said, had not been stopped the entire first half. So what if they get a first down? What if they get 5 yards
And
then they run out the rest of the first half and they get either a field goal or a touchdown, one or the other. Let's say they just get a field goal. Then they're up 16-6 at halftime instead of 20-13. So now they have a 10-point lead instead of a touchdown lead because the Raiders never get the ball to, score that touchdown right before the half. So it really opens this kind of Pandora's box of,
just our what if scenario.
As a Raiders fan, you can't assume your team was going to stop the Bengals because they had not stopped them up to that
I would
point.
imagine Steelers homer here, rational Raiders fans don't care about that call. They know that the officials screwed it up, and it would have been a benefit for them to get that call. And as our buddy Joe Musso points out in the comments, probably sipping his red wine, will, quote unquote, Rule 16, Section 4, Brinson.
look at Jonathan Chavez. Dude is only salty because the Raiders smacked his Steelers in week 2.
The difference is
up high, down hard.
Down hard.
I was actually played a bunch of dunk music while I was hosting the Friday show on HQ, so I had to mute my dunk button there. One other thing, just on the eye in the sky factor, there was a play call where I think it was Brian Edwards, maybe it was Darren Waller. Derek Carr threw a pass. And look, the officials had an awful night in this game.
Yes.
Let's not
Yes.
sugarcoat it. Jerome Boger was a disaster.
Least surprising development,
Of course, yeah,
including the blowout in Buffalo. By the way, Bengals.
One other thing. So, a couple quick notes from this section. There were tons of holding calls. Every single member of the Raiders' offensive line was called for holding, which is kind of amazing. I don't remember that ever happening. They gave Derek Carr a play where he flopped with his head and acted like he'd been hit in the head, and there's a 15-yard penalty for roughing the passer. And there was the timeout that the Raiders got gifted on a huge play by the Bengals, and then they said they waved off a roughing the passer foul on Max Crosby because the contact was inadvertent, even though he shoved Joe Burrow.
No. It was a timeout before the play even began.
Yeah, but I don't think it matters. A personal foul would still apply there.
If there's no play, how's it personal foul?
But so the Raiders got the timeout and they didn't get hit with the penalty. So a double.
Hayward called the timeout before the play went off, so that was the right call. They got that one right.
Yeah. I mean,
you're dunking on them for dunking.
It was a mess. It was like they were confused in the mess. And look, anyway, but my thing about the eye in the sky stuff is not specific to Boger. There's a play where there's an incomplete pass, and it was overturned, and they go up, and the Raiders run a really fast offense and go up there. Oh no! So then the next play is to Hunter Renfrow, and the eye in the sky popped in on the first play and said, "Hold on a second." And Boger goes up and goes, they ruled it incomplete. And he's like, actually, the ruling on the field is a catch. And so the Raiders on the next play, it's complete to Hunter Renfrow, but as he's going out of bounds, he loses the ball, and it looks like it's really close as to whether it's a catch or not. The NFL does not buzz in on that. They force Zach Taylor to throw a challenge and to throw a challenge flag. And my issue is that we are not being told when, where, how, and for what reason the NFL is buzzing in from New York on certain plays. Like, if you have back-to-back plays where it's a questionable situation with a catch, why is New York not getting involved in the second one when they get involved in the first one?
I know you like to have full disclosure. You need to know everything, and that's fine. I get that. The first one was clearly a catch, and they just botched it. The second one was, okay, there is something that the official on the field needs to look at and determine whether it's a catch or not. I understand that. And if the plays had been switched and the calls had been switched, I would have been fine with that as well. I know what you're saying. I know you don't like the secrecy, the Wizard of Oz behind the veil stuff, but I understood why they did it there, and they got both right. The issue, of course,
correct, and I'm with you. That is,
but
it
cost Zach Taylor a challenge. I get all that in terms of his ability to challenge later, should that have happened. But I know what you're
saying. The point just being that the NFL needs to come out and say when they use the eye in the sky, the official on the field needs to read that. He needs to say, there needs to be some declaration that it's replay assist or whatever Tariqa was talking about. Like, they added this year in the middle of the season and didn't tell anybody. It's insane. Like, they need to say the original ruling of the field was incomplete. Replay assist has determined that was a complete pass. Raiders second down, please put 8 seconds back on the clock or whatever it is. And then, the same thing, like, and if you're Zach Taylor, you need to, like, I had to bet on the Bengals. So I was worried. I wanted the Bengals to win.
Full disclosure.
I
made Brinson bet on the Bengals.
Yeah. No, I mean, I had them as the best bet, but I was panicked because I thought Zach Taylor was going to not throw the challenge flag in time, because I was thinking, oh my God, he's probably waiting for the eye in the sky to pop in because they just did it for the last play. And then it didn't happen.
I will say this.
By the way, shout out to Colin Bear in the chat. Yes, Venmo your $100 at some point.
Folks in the comments.
Colin and his brother went to every single loss in the Andy Dalton era. Finally got to walk out victorious today.
Folks in the comments are salty with Ryan Wilson for his anti-Raiders takes. Look, man, I don't know what to tell you. You can say that I'm mad because the Steelers lost the Raiders. That's fine, but if you're a fan and you think that touchdown should be overturned, what are we doing? That's a touchdown all day long.
And the Raiders, they just shot themselves in a fight. I actually thought this was a pretty even game, except the Raiders made the biggest mistakes. So, and the Bengals didn't make any big.
Deshaun Jackson dropped a touchdown on the first half.
Darren Carr fumbled the ball on a sack, and that turned into a field goal immediately. Peyton Barber fell out of bounds at the 2-yard line, And basically that was a lost possession for the Raiders. And then they had a short punt and the Bengals turned around and got a field. So the Raiders almost gave the Bengals 6 points on those.
The Raiders played awful football to start the game and were somehow down 7 points at halftime. Like I was worried for your health and safety and all the Bengals fans because it felt like the Bengals had played so much better than the Raiders and had gotten all the breaks and they were about to be in trouble.
Shout out to Brian J in the comments. Ryan listens to football on mute. Wilson. That is my new nickname.
Yeah, what kind of serial killer listens to football on mute?
Breech.
Wilson.
He said he did that earlier this season.
Yeah, but when there's an inadvertent whistle, I listen. I turn that mute off.
Devo, I don't suppose that you got my chat about playing that video, did you, by chance?
He responded. He can't do it.
Playoff win in 31 years for Cincinnati. Can you talk about and characterize what you're feeling right now in this moment?
Well, it's a great win for us, for the city, for the organization, but we expected this, so it's not going to be a big celebration like it was when we won the division. We took care of business. On to the next round.
I love Joe Burrow. Like Joe Burrow might be like one of my top 5 favorite players in football right now.
Brinson, he can't be. He can't be in my top 5.
I can do whatever I want. If I want to back Joe Burrow, look. By the way, I told you I bet the Niners. I bet a Niners Bengals Super Bowl matchup.
Why would you do that? That's the last thing any Bengals fan wants to see.
Did you not see? Or you didn't see the HQ thing, did you? Where Wilson and I were talking about our picks to win each conference.
I did not. I saw you give me a shout out on Shine Show.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. That's right. Give you a shout out on television for your birthday. But like we saw the same thing for Josh Allen, and we'll get to that game in just a second. But Joe Burrow, they partied like they threw down when they won the division, and I think that was the way he acted after that game today or this afternoon tonight was really important because Bengals fans, understandably, are like, thank you, Jesus. It's lifted. We are finally got the playoff victory. But if Kansas City beats Pittsburgh, Ryan's Steelers, no wonder Ryan's so salty. If Kansas City beats Pittsburgh on Sunday, the Bengals will go to Tennessee and the Bengals will dodge. The Bengals dodge one of Buffalo and Kansas City either way. And so, I mean, yeah, they're not, you're not like,
look, when I just to put that in perspective, somebody asked me before week 18 started, what would be the ideal playoff run for the Bengals to get to the Super Bowl, which is something you don't talk about because they'd never won a playoff game. And just one of those dumb things conversations that shouldn't even happen. But it was like, I hope they get the Raiders in the first round, which was only going to happen if somehow Jacksonville upset the Colts. So it didn't even seem realistic. And that if they played the Raiders, I thought the Raiders were the best matchup for them in the wild card round. And then their best shot at winning in the divisional round will be against the Titans. And then AFC Championship game, anything can happen. A lot of pressure on a lot of people, especially if it's Buffalo. And
I don't want to. I mean, betting against Joe Burrow is just bad business.
Isn't the team that just beat the Chiefs?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, exactly. They're going to have that confidence knowing, hey, we just beat this team.
And as you pointed out, they might be banged up front. Derrick Henry's coming back. Dante Foreman looks like Derrick Henry's younger brother. I don't know that playing in Nashville is the best route.
That was before all the injuries.
Yeah.
I'm giving this answer before week 18. Now with the whole defensive line banged up, it's definitely different.
Well, I mean, your other option is the Steelers beat the Chiefs and you go to Buffalo, which doesn't seem very appealing after.
Then you get a 52-49 shootout.
To handle 2 comments really quickly, I almost spit out my Angels envy whiskey because of this comment from Aaron M. Breech.
Oh,
you look like a poor man's John Leguizamo.
What a big jam! Wallace took it in his hands and said, up and away, dipsy-doo, dunkaroo.
How's that a dunk? That's a compliment.
I would say John Leguizamo looks like a poor man's John Breech after tonight.
Thanks.
What's your jersey there? What you got on?
I said Breech jersey. Are you crazy?
My God, Brinson.
I was just confirming for the people. They haven't seen it. Turn
It's
around.
an Andy Dalton jersey. What do you
I have
think
to
it
get
is?
up and turn. I'll turn around. I'm going to do it because they
Put your pants
they won a
on.
playoff game.
Oh yeah, you love to see it. Hey, Breech, do you wear that jersey for every playoff game?
No, because it's brand new because they just got new jerseys this year.
Mm.
So I've literally actually never worn it.
That jersey's 1-0.
It is 1-0.
So I shouldn't have to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you this anyway. Wear it next week Like,
maybe I won't be on the podcast. Maybe I'll be at the game if they're playing the Titans in Nashville.
I was going to say,
I would hope you're at the game.
You're going to be going to the game, I would imagine.
Have you ever been to I guess you have been to a Bengals playoff win because you're dad.
But I was under the age of 10, so.
All right. Anyway, we'll talk about the.
Congratulations, Breech.
Congrats, Breech. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll break down the breakdown of the New England Patriots next. So, only one person picked the Patriots to win on CBS.
Oh boy, who was that?
That was me. Whoopsie. That's a
Wait, Brinson, at what point were you like, this was the worst pick I've ever made?
First quarter, 20-0.
Was it after the second touchdown, the third touchdown, or the fourth touchdown, or the sixth one, or the seventh?
I think that it was probably when Micah Hyde made that play on the interception. Like Mac Jones,
that was the first drive.
It was the Patriots' first drive. Well, the Bills marched down the field. And then Mac was making some great 47-17 final score of this game. The Bills, Mac Jones made a lot of plays on that first drive.
Very first drive, Brandon Bolden dropped the ball, a 25-yard pass, hit him right in the stomach, and he dropped it.
They had a few drops. Like Mac Jones wasn't horrible. Like
he was good.
I've never seen the Patriots play so undisciplined and so badly.
He was really good.
He played really well, and it's impossible to really judge how you would expect Mac Jones to play once you get up to a 20-point lead, because you're talking about a rookie quarterback in a hostile road environment with literal dildos coming out of the stands.
There it is.
And or bildos, if you prefer, the nomenclature we utilize on this. Oh my God.
I thought Devo was
show it. I was like, Devo, Saturday night, Devo tossing it on the Devo thought he was going to get away with it.
Devo questioning his life choices once again.
But yeah, I mean, like Mac Jones is not why the Patriots lost. The Patriots,
he was the best player on the field for the Patriots.
Probably. The Patriots offense wasn't even the problem. I know they only scored 17, but it was the Patriots defense. The Bills, if you take out the kneel downs and you take out the end of the first half, the Bills were the first team in NFL history to go perfect, to get 100% of the yardage offered to them. They didn't have a field goal. They didn't have a punt. And they didn't have a turnover. They scored on every single possession, meaningful possession that they had, all 7 of them.
Well, not just scored, 7 touchdowns on 7 straight possessions.
Yeah, let me throw this out real quick. They were the first team in the Super Bowl era to score a touchdown on 5 straight opening possessions, their first 5 possessions in the playoffs, and they did it on their first 7. So no team had ever done 5, and they did 7.
Back up, Devo. Toss that picture back up and click the possession tab, because you look at this, what the Bills did, and it is like mind-boggling how dominant it was.
If you're a Patriots fan, you should be insulted.
What should you do, Breech, if you are Steve Belichick calling the defensive plays? What are you saying to your dad on the bus ride back to the airport?
You're saying, Dad, please don't retire because I'm not gonna have a job.
Touchdown, 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 end of half, touchdown, 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 end of game. My God. I mean, everybody caught, like, what Gabe Davis had 1, Dawson Knox had 2, a lineman had 1.
Devin Singletary caught 2.
Singletary ran for 2, I believe.
Yeah, Singletary ran for 2.
That's what I said. He had 2.
Yeah, you said he caught 2. Allen would have had 7.
Gabriel Davis had 1.
He caught 2 handoffs and ran them into the end zone. That's what I meant.
Okay, Wilson.
I'm only yawning right now because I had a hard time staying awake in the second half. It was like, that is how crazy this. It was like that, just write the Bills into the next round because the Patriots are not coming back. They have a rookie quarterback. You're trailing 27-3 at halftime. There's a 0% chance. The Bills could have not played offense the entire second half and they still win 27-17. That is how good their offense was in the first half.
Played offense. Amazing. I mean,
just kneeled the ball. Just kneeled the ball every time and punted it. And the only person that had any drama in this game was Tyler Bass, who decided to miss half his extra point attempts.
And the other one, he clanged in, but he made it. I mean, the Bears could have used him a couple years ago, and they would have taken that doink. By the way, Brinson mentioned the HQ show where he was touting the Bengals Super Bowl odds. I think 20-1, which
18-1, I think, by the time.
Don't look terrible, but on that same show, I was touting, hey, Brian Daboll, why don't you run old Josh Allen and use his legs? And that's exactly what he did. And Josh
Allen had an epic game.
Here's the thing, Josh Allen, here quickly, Josh Allen, 5 touchdowns, 4 incompletions.
Yes, 21-25, 308 yards, 5 touchdowns. The actually his 5th touchdown pass, great catch by at football, Chase Stewart at Football Perspective. But when Josh Allen threw that 5th touchdown pass, it actually ruined his perfect passer rating because it dropped his yards per pass attempt, which shows you how stupid the statistic is. Now, Allen didn't have a great game against the Patriots the first time in 2021, but that's because it was 70.
That was in a 700-mile-an-hour win.
Yes. The last 2 games, against the Patriots, they've won 33-21 in that was in Foxborough, and then 47-17 in Buffalo.
That first win, that 33-21 win, that was the first time ever in Bill Belichick's coaching career that a team did not punt against him. And now this was the second time ever, and it was both the Bills, and it happened 3 weeks apart. It's insanity.
Also, the halftime score of 27-3, the largest deficit in Patriots history.
And McDermott, nothing makes Sean McDermott happier than beating down Bill Belichick, especially remember after the 14-10 game, he was like, you guys are giving Belichick too much credit. Yeah. He's not what beat us. We beat us. And
he was right.
Right. I mean, he proved his point. You win by double digits 2 times in a row against the Patriots. I think you definitely proved your point.
Yeah, I mean, it was angry. I don't know if he's an angry Bills fan or angry Pats fan. I'm assuming Bills fan, but it's Scott Murphy in the chat said, Brinson, I guess McDermott wasn't, quote, in his feelings tonight against the Patriots. No, yeah, he was in feelings. Josh Allen said to the broadcast team that they were too emotional and too worked up for that first game and made too big a deal out of it. And it kind of gave their season a little bump and, or a speed bump for their season. And then all of a sudden they write things together. They beat the Pats in New England, and hell yeah, they were emotional coming for this game. There's a reason why they kept scoring touchdowns. It wasn't because they were worried Mac Jones and the Pats were coming back on them. It's because they wanted to send a message. Hey, F you for the last 20 plus years. F you for every Tom Brady game, every beatdown, Bill. Here's 47 on your face in the playoffs. The worst playoff loss, I think, in Bill Belichick's career.
I can't imagine they were much closer.
Yeah, there you go. Graphic on the screen. 2 worst Patriots losses: 1985 to the Super Bowl that was a Bears, and the NFL championship game in 1963. Otherwise, the closest one was a 19-point loss in 2009 to the Ravens. I believe that was
year 2 with Flacco and Ray Rice.
Well, remember Wes Welker tore his ACL
during the regular season
in week 17, playing in a meaningless game, and then Ray Rice ripped out that long run. It was a beat. Was that the Texans?
But you know what that had in common with this game is that they were both in the wild card round. And it feels like whenever the Patriots didn't get a bye, that they got to the playoffs more because of Belichick's coaching than the team. And there's a reason that they've played in the wild card round. I think this was the 5th time since Belichick was hired, and they've never made it to the Super Bowl coming out of the wild card round because they just don't have enough talent. And I don't think any of us thought the Patriots were going to go to the Super Bowl this year. We saw him playing the wild card round in Tom Brady's last game against the Titans, and that in 2019 he threw that pick 6 at the end. And then the game Brinson just mentioned, that Ravens game. So they're 0-3 in the wild card round over the past 15 years. So
this was Bill Belichick's first wild card round game on the road.
Right. So as an actual wild card team versus a division winner playing in the wild card round. So
first wild card round as an underdog as well for Belichick. So think about that.
And let's not forget too, when you get the bye, you get 2 weeks to prepare. I mean, you give Belichick 2 weeks to prep for a team, and although I don't know, and this is the erroneous part. And I screwed up the handicap. I screwed up the analysis of this game because I felt like Belichick could coach up his defense enough that they could mitigate the superior talent advantage that the Bills have. And that was obviously incorrect. And Josh Allen played a great game.
Well, it felt like this was the worst case scenario for the Patriots.
Mac Jones down there bragging because he beat the Bills, right?
This sharp here is 2-0. If you just looked at my picks, you would have known. Go ahead, Breech.
So is this sharp. But if you're the Patriots, want to play.
I think Pete went 1-1.
You want a one-off team. If the Patriots had played the Bengals, that would have been more interesting, because if you play Belichick and the Patriots every year, it's not as easy for him to fool you. And, the Bills know every trick you could throw at them. And because they're a more talented team, it is, as long as we don't make any dumb mistakes, we're going to win this game. I think that's what Buffalo was thinking. They really thought they were the better team, especially after that 33-21 win in late December.
And what if they make no mistakes?
And what happens if they make no mistakes? They win by 30 freaking points.
But, Breech, here's the thing. And I feel like you're sort of flip-flopping because you always come back to who beats the Patriots 3 times in a season. And
I was read my picks column.
Only beat him twice.
I literally said that this game depended on Brinson picked the Patriots. We picked the Bills. So obviously the Patriots won the first game 14-10. The Bills won that second game 33-21. Picking this game, it kind of felt like which game you felt was more indicative of how each of these teams were playing this year.
But
I thought the 14-10 game was a fluke because it was in crazy weather.
I get all that. You don't have to go through all this. What I'm trying to say to you is that no one expected the Patriots defense to roll over. No one expected Mac Jones to play as well as he did. Now, the outcome, I mean, if they lost by 14 points or something, I could certainly buy that. And I wouldn't expect this beat down, but it wasn't. I never, ever in a million years expected. And I would imagine our guy, Stephen O. Sportsline, he probably did 40 million simulations. None of them had in the defense giving up 7 straight touchdowns, all because Josh Allen owned them each and every drive.
And let's be clear too, like the first possession, the Bills marched down and scored a touchdown and it looked pretty easy, but did you think that first pass was a throwaway? I did.
Yeah, I think so.
I think he said it. He said it after the game.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had my buddies I was texting with, like, I don't know, he meant to do that. I was like, I don't think he meant to do that, guys. At any rate, they marched down and scored a touchdown. Then the Pats get the ball, and it's like they're starting kind of slow, but then Mac was making moves with his legs, keeping the drives alive. And they, Brandon Bolden has that big drop, but he recovers and he puts a dime on somebody. Who was it that was going to catch the ball? Was it Bourne?
Aguilar.
It was Aguilar, and Aguilar didn't fight for the ball either, which didn't help Max.
He didn't know Micah Hyde was coming out of nowhere.
Micah Hyde came out of it was a Harry Houdini interception. I had no idea how he got there and ended up with the ball.
Have you ever seen a no-look interception before? That was it.
That's my point. My point is that it wasn't a bad throw by Mac. I don't even put that much blame on Aguilar. Micah Hyde just made a play. The Bills' safeties are great. He made a play, and it flipped the game because I think it was 7-7. Like, I don't think we get a 47-17 outcome.
Brinson, you got so upset that you almost broke the internet.
I know, right? I thought that was just me. He glitched. He got caught in the Matrix there.
I glitched? Did I really?
Yeah, you were.
Why are they chanting Qantas? They're chanting Qantas in the chat right now. What are you drinking, Qantas? What kind of whiskey? Breech
I am drinking a single malt rye Jack Daniels that I specifically, my mother-in-law got me this for Christmas, and I was not going to open it unless the Bengals won. And so here I am. Just opened it.
You little. What are you? Cool? Is it koala bear? What are you?
Yeah, the top koala bear on this podcast.
That's right. The number one ranked koala bear on this podcast.
Hey, I got a couple of fun facts for you, real quick.
By the way, okay, I got one for you, and then I'll let you do them. The kneel downs by Mitchell Trubisky at the end of this game caused the Bills to go under 9 yards per play for the full game. 9 yards per play is outrageous.
And those were their first negative plays of the game too. Those kneel downs. Way to go, troops. A couple fun facts. So Josh Allen, 150 passing yards, 50 rush yards in the first half. He's the first quarterback in the Super Bowl era to do it in the first half of football ever. Super Bowl era, obviously. And then this is from Shieldcopedia, Athletic. Completed over 80% of his passes, Josh Allen did, threw for 300 yards, rushed for 50 yards, and had 5 touchdowns. No quarterback during the Super Bowl era has ever done all those things in a single game, regular season, or playoffs. That's how good Josh Allen was. Also, I'll give you 3 names. Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. Who do you think didn't make the Pro Bowl?
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen did not make the Pro Bowl. Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert did.
What somebody is saying that I'm refusing to walk back my worst of all time take, and that's what was my worst of all time?
You have a lot of worst of all time.
Yeah, the chat person have to be more. Yeah, you got to.
You got to be a lot more specific about that, and it can't be like what.
I mean, he's walked back the Garrett Bradbury thing like 8 times. What more do you want now?
Yeah, I mean,
hey, Garrett Bradbury almost caught in
touchdown.
Yeah, buddy.
I told you I'm drinking Angel's Envy. What is the deal here? Golly.
Do you want to hear a not so fun fact? Do you want to hear a not so fun fact if you're the Bills?
Bills fan?
No, if you're the Bills going forward. And okay. I'm pulling for both the Bills and the Bengals at this point.
Oh, that's funny because guess who has both of those teams on his $100 Super Bowl draft team?
Anyway, assuming the Steelers don't pull out a miracle tomorrow, it'll be Tennessee and Cincinnati. Breech will be at that game, and then KC plays Buffalo. And I saw a Chiefs radio guy tweet this out during the absolute demolishment of the Patriots by the Bills. Since the NFL went to 12 playoff teams in 1990, winning teams that have scored 40-plus points in the wild card round are 3-12 in the next round. So if you're a Chiefs fan and you're worried about this Bills vaunted offense, you can take some solace in this historical quirk that teams that absolutely blow the doors off their wild card opponents and win that game, go 3-12 in the next round.
Was that 40 or more?
40 or more, that's right. 50 or more. If they hit the 50 burger, they're 0-2 in the next round.
And you know what's funny about that is we don't see 40 or more points scored in the wild card round that often. Since 2014, this was only the second time it's happened. Do you know who the other team was? Wilson, specifically?
I don't know after 2014. I know 2009, 2013, because I'm looking at the tweet. Who is in 2014?
No. Since 2014, it's only happened twice. The Bills tonight and...
Is it a Steelers whooping?
It is.
Who'd they lose to?
They lost to the Browns last year.
Oh, right. The game they should have come back on, but Mike Tomlin punted in midfield to start the fourth quarter, but I'm not bitter.
Yeah, only wild card round, like you mentioned. And obviously, like you mentioned, the Browns lost in the divisional round. So, yeah, it is weird that teams exploding for a ton of points. And then before that, it was the Colts in 2013 who crossed 40, and then they lost to the Patriots. They got smacked down. Yeah, it's crazy. That's a good stat.
Look at that.
I'm being told I dress like a 13-year-old boy. I mean,
not wrong.
So if you're a Bills or Bengals fan, which one of those are you cheering for?
What do you mean? Which one and what?
See, I think
if I'm a Bills fan,
Devo's got the AFC divisional round picture up here. If the Chiefs win, it's Bengals at Titans, Bills at Chiefs. If the Steelers win, it's Steelers at Titans, Bengals at Bills.
I mean,
you're a Bills fan. You want if I'm a Bills fan, I think I want the Steelers to win because then I get a home game in the second round of the playoffs. Don't have to travel to Arrowhead to play You had to avoid the Chiefs in Arrowhead.
Yeah, you don't want to go to Kansas City on purpose.
Yeah. I mean, like the Bengals scare me, but the injuries. I mean, and I like again, I'm rooting for the Bengals, but the Bengals have those injuries on the defensive line, and I mean, there were dudes running wide open for the Raiders. Like I would feel much more confident about beating the Bengals at home than beating the Chiefs on the road if I was Buffalo.
All right, here's the early wins over Wilson line. Bills hosting the Bengals. I think it's 4.5.
Oh, I was going to say 5.5. Like the Bills are definitely favored by well over a field goal. So over the magic 3 number. What about Bills or what about Bengals Titans? What do you think the point spread is there?
Yeah, the Bills
3. I'm putting it right at 3. And I'm taking the Bengals all day long.
Look at the drop for the Bills odds there.
That's
Wilson
crazy.
was right. You should have bet him before. What was the line we said for Bills?
Bills hosting the Bengals is minus 4.5 to 5 if you're Breech.
Minus 6.5.
See this? Look at the Super Bowl odds. That's Super Bowl odds, right? The Bengals being 12-1, and they're already in the round of 8. And then the Cowboys are 12-1. They haven't even made it out of the wild card round. So that's like you're still getting good odds, good value with the Bengals 12-1.
The Cowboys are going to lose on Sunday too.
Nathan Graber McCrae asked, "Why are we even considering if the Steelers win?" By the way, keep smashing that like button. Getting kind of close to a Brinson sucks hat.
Three reasons: Juju, Smith, Schuster.
I was going to say because Big Ben came out and said, "What we don't even need to bother playing."
That's a better reason.
Like, that is like my big reason for thinking. I have a bet that I took a Steelers, Eagles, 49ers money line parlay on the podcast last week. Pays out like 65-1. Jump on it. Anyway, yeah. So smash that like button. Let's give away a hat. I would say, I think Bills, Bengals would be Bills minus 6.5.
Too high.
Okay.
Ooh, I said 5.5. Wilson says 4.5.
I mean, if it's Bills minus 4.5,
Price is right.
Because you take the Bills and just hope that Joe Burrow proves me right, or proves me wrong, I guess.
Right.
It would be Titans. What about Titans hosting the Bengals?
Minus 3 is what I put it at.
Yeah,
I'm taking
3 or 3.5.
I'm taking the Bengals all day long too.
I'll say 2.5. I think they keep it under 3 points. I just feel
they
like
might not want to give Burrow 3 against that.
Derrick Henry, injuries potentially on that defensive line. For the Bengals.
And the thing about Derrick Henry, look, the Bengals might have the defensive line, but being a running back in your first game back, when you've been out that long, you're not at your freshest.
If you have 2 defensive tackles, I think that's the best case scenario for Derrick Henry.
I mean, that's true. That is true. Unless
BJ Hill, came on to play well.
Unless they pull a Rams and find some retired player who will sign off the street and play for him next week, like they did with Eric Weddle.
What about Bills at Chiefs line? That one's really tough because I think initially you would just say Chiefs minus 3.
I think it's minus 2.5. I was gonna say -2.5.
I mean, if you're giving me the Bengals and the Bills getting points, I'm taking them on the money line and on the spread.
Wait, you taking what now?
I mean, I'm taking the Bills +3 in Kansas City next week.
What about +2.5?
Yeah, I just think the Bills.
I mean, but also don't forget the Bills walloped the Chiefs earlier this year.
And also lost to the Jaguars.
38-20, though. Yeah, but the Jacksonville is not in the playoffs, Ryan. I don't know if you know that. You're the draft guru.
What do we think the total is for
Chiefs Bills? 78.
Over. I'm less good at over-unders.
I do think there is some case to be made that maybe Derrick Henry won't be Derrick Henry.
Well, that's what Breech is saying, and that's fair. But you're not asking him to throw passes or catch passes or cover anybody.
His legs look tiny, man.
But also, him just being on the field, you have to account for him. So, like, the Bengals have to kind of change what they do, and so then they need a big game. The Titans need a big game from Tannehill. And as somebody in the chat mentioned, the Bengals did beat the Titans last year. And obviously last year is not a big deal, but the Titans offense is still pretty similar to what it was last year. The defense is a lot better than it was last year, but the Bengals were not that good last year. And, so.
A little concerning. I thought that the Bengals did a pretty good job keeping the pass rush at bay, but it felt like one, maybe they weren't getting called for any holding. And then two, Joe Burrow was moving just extraordinarily well in the pocket. Like he was stepping up, sliding, avoiding, hits. There was one moment where he did take a lower leg hit that it was kind of panic worthy.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that gets forgotten is that Burrow looks more comfortable back there every single week. I remember he got sacked like 6 times in the week 1.
He's the most sacked quarterback in football.
Week 2. Yeah. He was the only quarterback who got sacked more than 50 times, but I'm talking about early in the season. He just wasn't moving. He was just taking the sack because it seemed like he was afraid to do anything crazy. And now he's moving around. He's looking, he's not taking those sacks anymore. So he definitely looks more dangerous each week. Trademark Baker Mayfield's dangerous trademark now belongs to Joe Burrow.
All right. We're going to keep this podcast under an hour. We're just recapping 2 games. We'll be back tomorrow night. We will give away another hat tomorrow night. Oh, Scott Murphy reveals himself as a KC fan. Lovely. We are going to give away. We didn't get to our goal. We're going to give away a hat anyway. And it's not you, Colin. Sorry, buddy. The winner of the hat. Drum roll, please. Benjamin Upson. At Ben Upson on IG. Congrats, Ben. You get a Brinson Sucks hat or toboggan, as I like to call them. Whatever these poof ball hats are. It has a poof or is it no poof?
None.
No poof. So it's a fuzzy.
You can add one if you want.
You could tape one on, yes, if you wanted to. It's just rigged. What do you mean it's rigged? Demo just tells me here's who won.
I love that comment. It's rigged.
Whoever gets a Brinson Sucks hat, they should start sewing on all the picks he gets really bad, like Patriots over Bills.
That needs to be a Santa hat then, because it's going to need a lot of room.
I can't wait to run into somebody in real life who has a Brinson Sucks hat.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, we're like 6 weeks away from that happening because half the country has one at this point.
By the way, go tweet at Prisco CBS and ask him why he's losing to Ryan Wilson against the spread picks.
Yeah. We'll give you
his gums.
We will give you an extra entry into the if you can provide us with a tweet that you send to Pete Prisco at Prisco CBS.
You might get blocked, but it'll be worth it.
Say how are you so bad at picking? Just some variation of this. How are you so bad at picking games that you're losing to Ryan Wilson every week? And if you provide us with a proof of that tweet, we will give you an extra entry into the Brinson Sucks hat contest.
3 entries, Debo says.
3 entries if you trash Prisco online and be like, you
just include at Will Brinson and at Ryan Wilson CBS, and we'll get it.
Just random trashing is perfectly fine too.
Yeah, fantastic. What a great way to end a Breechian victory.
That's
for
right.
the first time in 31 years.
All right, Breech, play the music. Let's get out of here.
What?
You don't have any Bengal stuff queued up?
You're DJ Breech.
I mean, it's going to be in about 4 seconds.
If anyone was a DJ, it'd be John Breech. Clearly, he has it ready to go.
Are you kidding me? Of course I do.
So what's Pete's number?
4 seconds.
The wedding singer.
If anyone was a DJ, it'd be John Breech. Clearly,
that's interesting.
Your YouTube that you got. You hit.
He rewound the
run, pass, or boot.
Congratulations, Breech.
And defensively, he's rough.
Congratulations, everybody. For whatever. We'll see you back again tomorrow, Sunday night recap.